Gotham City is more than a cluster of towering skyscrapers and shadowy streets. It's a labyrinth of secrets where each alley might hide a truth no one dares confront. Whispers about unsolved tragedies blend with rumors of vigilantes leaping across rooftops. Amid this chaos, one figure stands taller than the rest, a man wrapped in darkness, driven by loss, and fueled by an unbreakable sense of duty. He's known as Batman, and around him swirl the stories of villains so outlandish and terrifying that some question whether Gotham itself breeds madness. Yet beneath every horrifying mask or tragic backstory, these criminals embody a harsh piece of the city's fractured soul. In each confrontation, Batman wrestles not only with them, but also with the part of himself that stands on the brink of moral collapse. Here is the unvarnished truth about the most intriguing and disturbing enemies the Dark Knight has ever faced. 1. The Joker. They say everything changed the moment a clown-faced man stepped out of Gotham's underbelly, wearing a grin so twisted it barely passed for human. No one can pin down his true origin. Some claim he was a failed comedian who experienced a catastrophic day that cracked his mind. Others whisper he was a petty criminal who fell into a vat of chemicals and crawled out a being so warped that death itself became a punchline. Wherever his story begins, the Joker's presence sends tremors across Gotham's landscape. He's not just a criminal mastermind, he's chaos incarnate, a living test of Batman's rigid moral lines. Rumors surface that the Joker secretly manipulates Gotham's black market, capturing unsuspecting victims to perform mind-bending jokes on them, all for his own twisted delight. If that's too far-fetched for some, there are endless speculations about multiple Jokers, each one deadlier than the last, hiding behind that painted smile. And every time he reappears, it's as if Gotham itself recoils in dread. People ask why Batman never ends him once and for all. Some guess he's Batman's greatest fear made flesh, while others speculate the Dark Knight believes even the Joker can be saved. Neither perspective makes the clown any less lethal. Every confrontation feels like a cosmic duel between order and chaos, and Gotham is the prize that trembles in between. 2nd, Bane. Not every villain relies on shock value and laughter. Some prefer brute force and an iron will. That's where Bane enters the story. Legend has it he spent his entire childhood in one of the worst prisons on Earth, serving out a punishment meant for his father. In that crucible, Bane trained his mind and body to endure, and eventually surpass any challenge. He's known to inject himself with venom, a dangerous substance that grants him near superhuman strength, but chains him to a lifelong dependence. Some allege he has entire labs devoted to refining the substance, pushing the boundary between advantage and addiction. For Bane, Gotham is a proving ground, and Batman is the ultimate test. Those who saw the day he once broke the Bat's back still talk about it in hushed voices. A demonstration of raw power that made even Gotham's underworld shudder. He doesn't need elaborate costumes or comedic antics. His intimidation comes from cold strategy paired with unstoppable might. Yet Bane's real tragedy may be how close he stands to redemption. Raised in darkness and betrayal, he wants to topple Batman not just for dominance, but to prove he can conquer any limit life places on him. Whether he's truly heartless or simply molded by cruelty is a question that keeps Batman vigilant every time this human battering ram appears. 3. Poison Ivy. When green vines coil around the city, leaving corrupted CEOs gasping in spore-laced air, people know Poison Ivy has returned. Once a brilliant botanist with a gentle passion for nature, Dr. Pamela Isley's life changed when an experiment fused her DNA with exotic plant toxins. Now, she manipulates plant growth and chemical pheromones, creating living traps out of everyday greenery. Some in Gotham think she's just a misguided activist fighting corporate greed, especially when she claims she only acts to protect the natural world. Others point to victims drained of life by her poisonous kisses and see a full-blown eco-terrorist who sacrifices innocence without regret. Her methods are as mesmerizing as they are deadly, from releasing mind-altering pollens into Gotham's air to orchestrating citywide greenouts that shut down entire power grids. She's rumored to have tried forging a pact with the Penguin to distribute her specialized toxins on the black market, an alliance that quickly dissolved when some of Penguin's henchmen ended up as fertilizer. Batman stands torn between understanding her mission and condemning her violence. He's seen her heartbreak at witnessing humanity's destruction of nature, yet he can't ignore the bodies left in her wake. It's a moral deadlock that underscores how complicated Ivy can be. After all, under different circumstances, might she have used her gifts to save the world instead of punishing it? 4. Catwoman. Every city has its Robin Hood figure. Gotham has Catwoman. Selina Kyle slinks through the night in a sleek outfit, half thief, half vigilante, and all mystery. She steals expensive jewels from lavish penthouses, seemingly to fund her own brand of justice. Or maybe just for the thrill. No one truly knows her full agenda. One evening, she might claw her way into a mogul's vault to snatch priceless artifacts. The next, she'll anonymously drop cash at a struggling orphanage. This duality keeps even Batman guessing. Their chemistry crackles in every rooftop encounter, caught between an alliance and a rivalry. The Penguin. For some criminals, success in Gotham means wearing fancy suits and maintaining a veneer of respectability. Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot, known far and wide as the Penguin, epitomizes that approach. Short, cunning, and always ready to hold a grudge, he rose to prominence by mixing underworld dealings with legitimate enterprises. Rumors persist he was bullied in childhood for his appearance, hardening his ambition to rule the city's dark corners. Today he runs upscale clubs, orchestrates elaborate smuggling rings, and doles out punishments to anyone who dares cross him. Some find it amusing how he tries to mimic high society, until they realize just how deadly he can be. He's allegedly used connections within Gotham's government, funneling bribes until he placed himself in a position of near political power. Folks still recall the time he briefly rose to an actual mayoral seat, or nearly did, only for his hidden alliances to unravel. He'll strike deals with anyone if it pads his pocket, even twisted figures like Poison Ivy or the Joker, so long as he believes he can come out on top. Where Batman clashes with the Penguin, it's often more about unmasking Cobblepot's veneer of legitimacy than countering overt violence. But make no mistake, behind his polite smile and neat tuxedo lurks a predator who's every bit as ruthless as the city's flashier villains. 6. The Riddler. When riddles echo through the radio waves or cryptic clues appear scrawled on Gotham's iconic statues, everyone knows the Riddler is back for another twisted game. Edward Nygma, often stylized as Enigma, believes intellect is the highest currency. Some say he was once a brilliant data analyst at Wayne Enterprises, fired for his unethical hacking. Others claim he's simply a genius-level puzzle fanatic who fixates on Batman as the ultimate rival. True or not, he stages each crime like a meticulously planned show, with illusions, wordplay, and traps that test the victim's mind as much as their courage. The city collectively cringes anytime he hijacks a broadcast and demands that Gotham answer his riddles, because they know one slip could cost lives. It's rumored he plants double-layered clues so that even if you solve the puzzle, you might be following a bogus lead. For the Riddler, it's less about stealing valuables or harming innocents, though he's done both, than proving he's smarter than Batman. Every time the Dark Knight cracks his puzzle, Nygma's obsession deepens. He might vanish for months, only to emerge stronger, more cunning, and more determined to prove his intellectual dominance. It's a cat-and-mouse routine that frustrates law enforcement because the Riddler can appear harmless at first glance. But behind those question marks and smirks lies one of the most dangerous minds Gotham has ever seen. 7. Two-Face. In some corners of Gotham, they still remember District Attorney Harvey Dent as a gleaming beacon of hope. But the past seems like a dream compared to the reality of Two-Face. When Dent suffered a gruesome facial injury from an accident involving acid, say some, or perhaps a betrayal he never recovered from, his psyche tore in half. Now he's as unpredictable as the flip of a coin, deciding fates at random based on a single piece of silver. One moment he spares a life if the coin lands right. The next he's sentencing someone to unimaginable horrors if it lands wrong. Whispers persist that Batman once nearly convinced Harvey to surrender and seek help, only for that other half of Dent's mind to sabotage the effort. There's a tragic undertone to every confrontation with Two-Face, as though a part of him still tries to do good before the monster inside takes over. Some say he's even prosecuted criminals in his twisted way, genuinely believing chance is truer justice than Gotham's flawed courts. Batman can't ignore the heartbreak in this story. A man who once stood beside him as an ally, now devoured by rage and madness. Two-Face's existence embodies Gotham's moral struggle, how a single devastating event can unmake even the best among them, leaving only a scarred shell behind. 8. Clayface monsters don't always lurk behind Joker smiles or mechanical pump suits. Sometimes they ooze from the shadows as living, shape-shifting nightmares. Clayface is that horror, a being rumored to have once been a horror film actor, or a down-on-his-luck performer who tumbled into an experimental chemical mixture. Emerging with the power to morph into nearly any shape or person, Clayface carries bitterness toward a society he believes abandoned him. One theory claims he's the product of unethical testing in secret labs, which would explain the near-constant rumors of lab break-ins and stolen research. Another speculation says he's cursed by some ancient artifact, each transformation fragmenting his psyche further until only rage remains. Clayface isn't all unstoppable muscle, he's cunning too. There have been times he impersonated high-ranking officials, sowing confusion and sabotage until the city was on the brink of collapse. Batman's never sure if Clayface is truly irredeemable or simply trapped in a body that won't let him return to a normal life. Some nights you can almost pity the way he lashes out against Gotham, desperate for acceptance but no longer able to connect with ordinary humans. That very desperation can turn lethal in an instant, making Clayface one of the most unpredictable threats the Dark Knight has ever faced. 9. The Birthday Killer. Known only as the Birthday Killer, this shadowy figure preys on specific targets, often leaving behind twisted celebrations in abandoned spaces. Rumors say his obsessions revolve around twisted parties, each victim forced into a nightmarish scenario that ends in violence. He rarely resurfaces in mainstream news, perhaps because his acts are so disturbing that media outlets refuse to broadcast them in detail. Or maybe the powers that be sweep the events under the rug, unwilling to admit there's a killer out there who celebrates human suffering like it's a sick holiday. Word on the street is that he once struck a deal with corrupt officials, offering to remove their enemies in exchange for a steady supply of new guests. If those stories hold any truth, it shows just how entwined Gotham's sickness is with these hidden monsters. Batman occasionally tracks the faintest leads, bits of confetti found on an old sidewalk, or a scrap of a candle in a deserted house. Despite saving some potential victims, the city's sense of dread intensifies whenever an unexplained disappearance surfaces near a sinister birthday invitation. The very idea that someone out there transforms a day of joy into a sign of terror unsettles even Gotham's hardened detectives. 10. Professor Pig. Known for wearing a pig-like mask, this deranged individual sees Gotham's populace as a canvas for his grotesque surgeries. Some speculate he was once a respected scientist who cracked under the weight of personal loss or isolation. Others believe he's always been unhinged, learning medical procedures from illegal experiments on unsuspecting subjects. The result? Victims left mutilated or mind-warped, often with bizarre masks welded to their faces, meant to symbolize Pig's pursuit of a twisted form of perfection. His labs are rumored to be hidden in rundown areas where missing persons posters cluster on light poles, places the city forgets. Batman has raided several suspected hideouts, only to discover horrifying contraptions and cryptic diaries filled with references to beauty and masterpieces. Each diary entry suggests a method to fix people, hinting that Pig believes he's doing them a favor by remolding them into something unrecognizable. The pity is that buried beneath the mania might be a misguided genius, but when that genius involves carving people up to create mindless drones, it ceases to be redemptive. Once Batman or the GCPD arrive, Professor Pig usually disappears into another hidden corner of Gotham's endless labyrinth, leaving behind half-finished nightmares that haunt survivors for the rest of their lives. Batman stands as the weary sentinel. Each villain he faces represents not just another criminal, but a reflection of Gotham's own broken heart. The Joker shows what happens when chaos takes the wheel, Bane exemplifies unstoppable force born of suffering, and Poison Ivy reveals the violent side of idealism gone haywire. There's Catwoman, blurring lines between temptation and heroism, and the Penguin, whose respectable veneer hides the savage gangster within. The Riddler is a testament to intellect turned malignant, and Two-Face is the ultimate tragedy of a once virtuous man shattered by a single cruel moment. Clayface warns of loneliness consuming what humanity remains, while the Birthday Killer demonstrates the horrors that slip through the cracks, unnoticed by all but the unfortunate. Finally, Professor Pig crosses into the realm of grotesque obsession, contorting medical knowledge into inhumane experimentation. Every night, as shadows lengthen across Gotham's rooftops, these forces of darkness wait for their moment. Some want to break the bat, others want to prove they're smarter, stronger, or more ruthless. A few might be redeemed, maybe they just need the right push, but no one knows who will rise next to shatter the city's fragile peace. And so, the Dark Knight prowls onward, ever watchful, ever burdened, fighting to keep a spark of hope alive in a place that might otherwise drown in nightmares. In Gotham, there are no easy answers, only relentless battles that test everyone's limits. But so long as there's one man willing to become a legend rather than be broken by tragedy, the city has a chance, no matter how small, against the villains who threaten its every breath.